The arms sales, 1980s. In the early 1980s, tensions between Iran and Israel escalated after the Islamic Revolution. While Iran publicly denounced Israel, the Mossad began a quiet intelligence buildup. Israel's primary focus during this time was to monitor Iran's military capabilities and regional influence, especially its support for militant groups like Hezbollah. During the Iran-Iraq War, 1980 to 1988, Israel secretly supported Iran with arms sales, including the controversial Iran-Contra affair, in an effort to prevent an Iraqi victory. Simultaneously, Mossad started to build an international network of informants by recruiting Iranian exiles. In 1982, Israel invaded Lebanon. Mossad operations increased dramatically as Iran backed Hezbollah, which quickly became Israel's chief enemy in the north. Intelligence from this period helped Mossad track Iranian arms shipments and military advisors entering Lebanon. Mossad also worked to identify Iranian nuclear scientists and facilities suspected of contributing to a future weapons program. While no direct sabotage occurred in this decade, reconnaissance missions laid the groundwork for future covert action. Unit 8200 cyber attacks. The 1990s saw a shift in Mossad's approach toward Iran. The decade began with Iran strengthening its alliances with Hezbollah and developing new intelligence networks abroad. Mossad responded by targeting Iranian diplomats and suspected agents in Europe, often using surveillance and electronic interception. Two major attacks on Jewish and Israeli targets in Argentina, the 1992 Israeli embassy bombing and the 1994 AMIA bombing, were traced back to Hezbollah with Iranian backing. These bombings marked a turning point in Israel's perception of Iran as a global threat. In response, Mossad intensified operations worldwide, tracking Iranian agents in South America, Africa, and Southeast Asia. By the late 1990s, the Israeli intelligence community started to experiment with cyber capabilities. Though the technology was still in its early stages, Mossad and Unit 8200 tested methods to infiltrate infrastructure such as oil facilities, pipelines, and industrial control systems. These exercises would serve as critical preparation for the more advanced cyber attacks of the following decade. Additionally, Mossad invested in developing long-term sources within Iran. This included recruitment of individuals working in aviation, energy, and academic sectors, particularly those with access to military or nuclear institutions. The 1990s ended with the understanding that Iran's nuclear program was no longer theoretical. The death of Ardashir Hosseinipour, 2006. In January 2006, Iranian nuclear physicist Ardashir Hosseinipour was found dead under mysterious circumstances at Shiraz University. Officially, the cause of death was carbon monoxide poisoning, but intelligence leaks and investigative reports soon suggested Mossad involvement. Hosseinipour had access to high-level military nuclear data, including electromagnetic isotope separation techniques critical to uranium enrichment. He was also reportedly working closely with Iran's military, which made him a high-value target. Sources claimed that Mossad used radiological poisoning to simulate an accidental death. While conclusive evidence never surfaced publicly, the precision and timing of his death aligned with Israel's broader efforts to neutralize Iran's nuclear development capabilities through covert means. The operation, if Mossad was responsible, marked a quiet but important step in slowing the Islamic Republic's nuclear ambitions. In 2009, Israel and the United States launched one of the most sophisticated cyber attacks in history, Stuxnet. The operation was designed to sabotage Iran's uranium enrichment program at the Natanz nuclear facility without firing a single shot. Developed jointly by Mossad and the NSA, Stuxnet was a computer worm specifically coded to target industrial control systems made by Siemens, the type used to operate centrifuges at Natanz. Once inside the network, the malware instructed centrifuges to speed up and slow down in irregular patterns, causing them to malfunction or break down entirely. At the same time, it sent false feedback to monitoring systems, making it appear as though everything was normal. By the time Iran realized what was happening, around 1,000 centrifuges, nearly 10% of their capacity, had been destroyed. Stuxnet marked the first time a cyber weapon caused physical damage to a state's infrastructure. It was a turning point in modern warfare, proving that digital tools could have real-world impact. The attack set back Iran's nuclear timeline by several years. The scientist assassinations. Between 2010 and 2012, a wave of targeted assassinations struck Iran's nuclear program. At least 5 Iranian scientists linked to nuclear research were attacked in Tehran using precise and consistent methods. While Israel never officially claimed responsibility, Western intelligence agencies and Iranian officials attributed the operations to Mossad. The first major strike came in January 2010, when Professor Masoud Ali Mohammadi was killed by a remote-controlled bomb hidden in a motorcycle outside his home. Later that year, in November, two coordinated attacks occurred minutes apart. Majid Shahriari was killed when a magnetic bomb was attached to his car. Fareydun Abbasi Davani, who was in the second vehicle, survived after managing to escape before detonation. In July 2011, Dariush Rezaianejad was gunned down near his home in front of his wife and daughter. Then, in January 2012, Mostafa Ahmadi Roshan was assassinated in similar fashion. The campaign had a chilling effect on Iran's scientific community. Recruitment became harder, and some scientists reportedly left the country. The Nuclear Archive Raid, 2018. In January 2018, Mossad executed one of its most daring operations in recent history. A team of agents infiltrated a warehouse in the Shorabad district of Tehran, where Iran secretly stored sensitive documents from its defunct nuclear weapons program known as Project Ahmad. The location was unknown to international inspectors and even to most Iranian officials. Mossad had discovered the site months earlier through surveillance and recruited local assets to assist in the operation. On the night of the raid, the agents bypassed security systems, cut into dozens of safes, and extracted over 100,000 pages in digital files in just a few hours. These included blueprints for warhead design, records of uranium tests, and communications between Iranian officials outlining plans to resume weapons work at a future date. The agents left before sunrise, transporting the material out of Iran and into Israel. Prime Minister Netanyahu publicly revealed the existence of the archive months later, using it to argue that Iran had lied about the peaceful nature of its nuclear program. The killing of Mohsen Fakhrizadeh, 2020. On November 27, 2020, Iran's top nuclear scientist, Mohsen Fakhrizadeh, was assassinated in broad daylight near the town of Absard, east of Tehran. Widely considered the architect of Iran's nuclear weapons program, Fakhrizadeh had long been on Israel's radar. His name had appeared in Israeli intelligence files for over a decade, and Prime Minister Netanyahu had singled him out publicly in 2018, saying, "Remember that name." According to reports, Mossad used a remote-controlled machine gun mounted in a parked vehicle. The weapon was guided via satellite and possibly assisted by AI to identify and track the target. There were no Mossad agents physically present during the operation, minimizing risk and enabling plausible deniability. Iranian guards were either killed or wounded in the ambush, while Fakhrizadeh died shortly after from multiple gunshot wounds. The operation required extensive surveillance, smuggling of high-tech weaponry, and coordination from within Iran. It was one of the most sophisticated assassinations in recent memory. Natanz explosions and sabotage. 2020 to 2021. Between 2020 and 2021, Iran's Natanz nuclear facility, one of the most heavily fortified and essential parts of its uranium enrichment infrastructure, was struck twice by devastating acts of sabotage. Both incidents, occurring in July 2020 and April 2021, were widely attributed to Mossad. In July 2020, a powerful explosion tore through the Natanz Centrifuge Assembly Center. Satellite images revealed widespread damage to the above-ground structure. Iran initially downplayed the incident, but soon acknowledged significant disruption. Western intelligence agencies later confirmed that the explosion had set back Iran's centrifuge development by at least a year. The attack was reportedly carried out using explosives smuggled into the facility months in advance and detonated remotely. Then, in April 2021, just a day after Iran announced a new generation of advanced centrifuges at the site, another act of sabotage caused a blackout that crippled power supplies throughout the facility. Experts believe the blackout destroyed or severely damaged hundreds of centrifuges. Again, fingers pointed to Mossad, which, according to Israeli sources, had recruited insiders to carry out the operation from within Iran. The strikes showcased Mossad's deep infiltration and intelligence-gathering capabilities inside Iran, raising alarm in Tehran. Operation Rising Lion, 2025. In June 2025, after years de-escalating and re-escalating tensions between Israel and Iran, the covert war became fully kinetic. Operation Rising Lion marked the most public and coordinated strike against Iran's nuclear infrastructure to date, combining air power, cyber warfare, and on-the-ground intelligence from Mossad. The operation began with Mossad operatives infiltrating Iranian military networks weeks in advance. Using cyber tools, they disabled segments of Iran's radar and early warning systems, ensuring that Israeli aircraft could penetrate Iranian airspace with minimal resistance. Simultaneously, Mossad agents agents fed the Israeli Air Force, IAF, real-time intelligence on the location of mobile missile launchers, hidden centrifuge halls, and communication nodes. In the early hours of June 11th, Israeli jets, mostly F-35s, launched a barrage of precision strikes on key targets: the Natanz and Fordo enrichment plants, missile storage depots in Kondab, and the suspected underground command center at Parchin. Bunkers that had resisted previous sabotage attempts were obliterated by bunker-busting munitions. Meanwhile, Mossad teams on the ground carried out their own parallel mission. Reports indicated they assassinated 2 senior IRGC officers overseeing nuclear logistics and coordinated GPS jamming around major cities to confuse Iranian response systems.